There were many times when on our journey that it seemed like hope was lost, but this is proof that there's always hope. There's always a shining light at the end of that tunnel for you. So I'm so happy that she's here with us and incredibly thankful that we joined the program.
Take me back to kind of the moment that you realized that you were having difficulties and what made you decide to get something, to change.
Yeah, so I will start us off. Before we joined the program, I think we had been trying for about 5 to 6 years, maybe. We already had a son that we conceived naturally with no problem after we got married. So when things weren't happening right away, we just thought, it's just a timing thing. Life was just happening like it had been for years. We both had good jobs. We had our, I think, 2-year-old at the time when we first really started, and we thought nothing serious. We just need to get more scientific about this and get the timing right, or, really focus on it and not just do it casually, not just go about it casually. So when we started doing that and it took longer, finally decided to have a conversation with my OB and, start with what they usually start with, the testing, the minor things to rule out the bigger, more significant issues that might come about with fertility issues. So when we did that, we found out some things with Eric a little bit, and we're like, we can overcome that. We'll just start small and then work from there. And my OB was really great, but things kind of just didn't take with the first few steps that we tried. And I think because we had conceived naturally previously and my OB was very positive, we didn't necessarily move to the next step as quickly as we probably could have or should have. I think part of it was me personally didn't want to think there was more of an issue, maybe a little bit of a denial or explanations in my head, like, well, we didn't have a problem before, why would we have a problem now? So we went through kind of a lot of stepwise phases before we got to the program. And we can go into more of that in more detail, but I think with each phase, we were like, okay, well, this is it. This will get us to where we need to go. That's what the physician says we need to do. And I think we just lingered a little too long with each step along the way. And we didn't think there could be anything that we personally could do to help things along other than doing the medical things that the physician said we should do or could do next step wise. So
yeah. And what were some of the challenges that you guys experienced? It might be from an emotional perspective, from a physical perspective. I think that you've touched on some already, but what was some of the time, what were you thinking around that time?
Well, as I mentioned, I was probably in denial a little bit. Emotionally, I think every time we were serious with each month or each new try, it was very like an emotional roller coaster, people might characterize it as, but it very much was. It was, you get your hopes up, thinking this will be it. This is the new next thing that we're trying, and this will be it. And then it didn't happen. And then you're like, oh God, no explanation, no reason why. Picking yourself up from that emotional drop and then trying to decide, what do we do next? Do we try the same thing again? Emotionally, there was that toll. I think relationship-wise, we didn't necessarily talk with each other much about how it impacted us. It was more like, okay, what's the next step? What do we do? Can we financially afford it? The logistical aspects of things we were really good at trying to figure out next steps, but I think that was one of the challenges too, is not having the wherewithal, not knowing anybody who had gone through this before personally, also not having anybody to lean on and talk things through with. It was kind of like us trying to find our own way.
How was that for you, Eric? Because I think that, for women, it's very much, like an expressive experience. And even though, Juliet, for you, you were saying that you didn't talk much about it with each other, but was it mostly kind of like a mental thing for you, Eric? Were you concerned? Were you worried? Or was it just like, this is going to happen eventually? Where were you?
And originally, you're thinking this is going to happen eventually. The more you try, it'll happen. But when you start doing some testing and finding out that maybe there's some fertility issues, those things maybe aren't 100% perfect. You feel healthy, but maybe you're not as healthy as you could be in certain aspects. And it starts to become a weakness, it feels like. And if you don't have a support structure to talk to others about it,
this is what happens. Olivia's doing this. it's not good.
If you don't have a support structure, someone else to talk to about it, then all you can really do is try to make your next step forward. So with each other. And before we had joined the program, we didn't really have much of a support structure. We had our OB, but we didn't really talk to our families about this. So,
which is so frequent. So many people feel like they can't talk about it, and they won't, or they don't want to. They don't want to feel like there's something wrong with them, or they don't want the pity of other people. And, it can be such a challenging experience. Was there like a breaking point moment that you realized, okay, I have to do something? And Olivia will join us momentarily, but I have to do something. Was there one of those moments, or did it kind of just escalate into something that became something else without much consideration? How did that happen?
I mean, I think it was a progressive thing, like with each step along the way, moving from non-invasive to more invasive things medically that we were doing. It was like, okay, this didn't work for the 6th, 8th time. We need to do something different. And I think, one of the key moments I had was after we had done a few IUIs, IVF with a fresh egg embryo that didn't take, and having that debrief meeting with the physician. One of his comments as he was trying to explain like why these things could happen, we don't know exactly what happens in every situation, or at all in any situation. But one of the comments he made was, you could just, your eggs could just be bad. Like that could be a thing. And I'm like, I took that, and I didn't think I had a visceral reaction in the meeting room with him, but I definitely did a few weeks later. I kept hearing his words, and I kept thinking, that can't be it. I think I was 36 at the time, and I'm doing this research online, and I'm like, I've had a child before. I'm a relatively healthy person. I don't do drugs. I don't do all these things to like harm my body and my chances, at least on purpose, that I know about. And at that point I was like, okay, this is it. Like, I can't take this. If the physicians in the world all think that this is something that's happening that I can't control, like that's not an answer to me. So I think that's when we started looking at programs like more alternative medicines and Googling. And I think I came across the Gabriela Rosa program among a few others, and started exploring, well, what else is there beyond the medical Western traditional IVF stuff that I felt like, you hear all about, and people kind of push on you once you're dubbed as infertile. That's the track you go down. So I think that was one of the biggest moments. Like, there's got to be something else out there. There's got to be at least better answers to what might be happening for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's interesting to hear you talk about it, because even though I hear that so often, where people say to me, like, I was just told that I was too old and my eggs are no good. It's like every time I have a visceral reaction to that. I'm going like, oh my God, just put me in front of that doctor. But yeah, it's a tough one. I went to Harvard to do a doctorate because of one of these conversations. So, it really does make me kind of go, yeah, I don't think so. But what made you in the end kind of like decide, okay, got to do something? this is the program that we want to do. You know, you had tried so many things. What felt different about this program? You know, what felt like, okay, this is the one that I want to go forward. This is it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a pretty in-depth conversation before we had done the fertility challenge, when I had looked into the program and did kind of the interview phase. And it felt very in-depth and very like you wanted to be sure we were the right people for the program, and not just we want to take your money and tell you what to do and hope things work out. And even though we didn't enroll right away, it was kind of like, well, this is different. This feels a little bit different than everything else we've explored at this point. And then we did the fertility challenge and realized that, hey, you guys are offering support outside of, you know, the traditional, let's enroll you in this program or have you do these things and take your money and do all this testing. Even though that's a little bit a part of the program, it was very much, let's offer you these tools and these resources in hopes that you can conceive naturally before you even do a whole lot with us. So that was definitely a different feel, and it was more empowering too. It felt like we had a bigger role in our own journey versus just taking the medication and doing the procedures and having people say, yeah, showing up on the day and having it feel very clinical. Like, here's your piece of paper, you follow these instructions, we do these things to you, and you keep your fingers crossed and your legs crossed and you hope that it worked this time. It was very much, here's a lot of things you can do. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of commitment. It's not all just physical. So that's the part that felt a lot different as well.
Yeah. What about for you, Eric? What was the thing like? What was the thing that made you decide, yeah, actually, you know, this was right for me as well as a guy, you know?
We go back to that same conversation with the doctor in a moment when the idea was kind of put into our head that maybe this isn't possible for you. That kind of triggered for me thinking about other things, other variables that we can control. We both have science backgrounds and think about what can we do to prepare for the next thing? What can we do to improve our chances over and over? And after doing the fertility challenge and you know, starting the program, we found the environmental levels, we found the you know, the mentality, health spiritually, and just adding all these extra layers really gave you the feeling that you have more control in your fate on this journey. And not that it really gives you or takes away the feeling of like, this is the thing that's going to help us accomplish our goal, but these are many little things that can help us to accomplish our goal. And that was not something I got with our first round of IVF. So
it's so beautiful to know that, you know, to hear that from you, given that, you know, you guys have done so many things before coming to us. What was the biggest kind of like aha moment, so to speak, you know, joining the program? You've mentioned some of the things in terms of like what you benefited from, but like, what was some real like, wow, I never thought of this way, or, you know, I didn't know that it could be like this, or, you know, anything at all. But what were your big aha moments? What were the surprise things that you didn't expect along the journey?
We did a lot of data, a lot of blood testing, and seeing some levels of iron or you know, concentration of your gametes and whatnot. And you see numbers change after a month or 3 months, 6 months over time, and how you can tweak different aspects of your life between nutrition and your mindset going into every day. And seeing that it is actually having an effect on you was a big trigger for me.
I think that, and I think just feeling physically healthier and having, I think, the pause at the beginning of the program as well, where you're not trying to conceive, was like, well, why? At first it was like, well, why aren't we gonna try to conceive for this long? Like, isn't it counterintuitive? But then, you get into the program and you understand why and the work that you need to partake in to get to where you want to be. And it, like, the feeling healthier, feeling more energetic, that was a big piece of it. And I think also the mindset of, I mean, for that period of time, I was almost afraid to start to try to conceive because I was very much happy with like how our perception changed around. We were so focused on getting this end result that we weren't getting, that we kind of forgot about all the other stuff around us that we could enjoy and partake in. And it was, so when we were asked, we said, yeah, we can start to conceive. It was kind of like, oh God, I'm nervous now.
But isn't it interesting? It's fascinating, and I love to hear you talk about this, because it's almost like when you're trying to get pregnant, there is this almost singular focus that you become extremely narrow focused on one thing. And anything that is not that one thing almost goes by the wayside, and you forget that there is enjoyment in every moment, in the day-to-day, in the little conversations, in the connection just for the sake of connection, and being intimate, just, cuddling and supporting each other and hearing each other and all of those things. So it's almost, for me, when I've been delivering this program a long time, as you know, and, every time I hear this piece, it truly warms my heart so much, because the journey for most of the couples that come to us is not a straightforward one. It's not easy. It is difficult. It's complex. It's full of ups and downs. And for me, one of the big highlights is actually seeing you connect with that truth, that actually things are pretty great, even though there are things in our lives that, okay, we would like to be different, and to be able to actually design a program in such a way that it actually delivers that to you, it to me is such a beautiful gift, to hear you talk about it. So thank you. And also, I think for people to realize that nothing's going to happen in a very bad way if you just take the time to really truly optimize your health, your resilience, your general ability to show up for yourself in your day-to-day, right? Like, I think that that's when you're trying, it's such a scary thing to do. You're thinking like, oh my God, does this mean that we're going to run out of time altogether to have a baby? Or would it be one of the best things that ever happened, So it's really lovely to hear you kind of describe that in that way, as opposed to like, oh my God, this is going to be the worst thing ever. So tell me, in terms of when you finally, you were doing all of these things, what was some of your favorite things? That is one of them. But what were some of the other favorite things that you had along this journey that it was almost kind of like a surprise, that you thought, oh, I didn't think that I was going to like that. And I did.
Well, so Eric has a cooking background and I like to cook. I think one of the things we got really good at and didn't think we would enjoy at all is cutting out all the things that for the diet you're supposed to cut out, like no dairy and gluten-free. And I think we got really good at being creative and coming up with really good meals and substitutes for things that at first it seemed hard, but it became easy almost, to the point where when I finally got pregnant and was like, okay, I can have my ice cream maybe. Like, do I want to do that? We were making nice cream a lot for desserts at night, because I was an ice cream fiend before we started the program. I mean, like every night, like I had to have ice cream every night. So I think that was a surprise in and of itself, that we could enjoy changing our diet in a way that we thought was restrictive and really kind of opened us up to new things.
Yeah. And what about for you, Eric? What were some of your favorites?
I mean, I think initially joining the program, making changes to your life with diet, and treating it more as like a lifestyle. The overcoming what seems like life-changing things to you, eating different foods, and maybe changes in your social behavior because of it. And when you finally accept it and make it part of you, and don't treat it like my diet, but like my nutrition, my plan for nutrition, or the way I eat, my lifestyle. It is, like Julie said, it's just enjoyable, and you feel good about what you're doing. It brings you closer to your partner in ways that you may never have experienced before, and it's just rewarding because you're the one holding yourself to it. You're the only one.
Yeah. And isn't it wonderful? That's another thing that I love to see, and you've just touched on it, is the level of connection and the change and the shift in how two people start to respond to each other in different ways because of this new experience, because of working together as a team. I often talk about the fact that fertility is a team sport, and it's about really making sure that we have that cohesive experience together. But it's in the day-to-day and the things that happen that makes that so real, right? And just so lovely. In terms of the actual support that you got through the program, what were some of your favorite things? Did you have a particular favorite session or a particular favorite thing that you did at all?
Yeah, so I think, the team support was great. It definitely felt like we weren't just checking in to get a blood test and talk about the results, or do a procedure and then wait for the results of that. It was very much, in between all the things that are happening, what else is going on with you? What do we need to talk about? Like helping us figure out our plan and talk about it and debrief on it and then tweak it along the way. I think we didn't have a resource like that previously, and I don't think we could even be each other's resource in that, because we're not experts in fertility stuff and trying to navigate all the options that are out there. It's obviously a full-time job to figure out what are all the different approaches and components going into fertility. I think one of the themes that was always brought back in our emotional support sessions was perception, and your perception around what's happening, not just related to fertility, but other things in your life. And the snow globe analogy around, there's all this going on, but your perception around and how you deal with it is within your control, and you don't have to let the craziness around you, or however you're perceiving it, take control of you. So I think that was a theme that was very helpful in keeping the highs and lows not so volatile. Reminding ourselves of that perspective, and reminding ourselves that, we got to a point where, it is okay if we don't have another child. It would be okay. It's not the end of the world. We have a lot of great things happening in our lives. It would be great. We want one or two more or three more or whatever it might be. But, do we need one? Is it going to cause us to fall off the end of the earth? No, it'll be fine. So I think getting to that place too was you're
Doesn't agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, you know what, you needed to do this for me.
But I think
that's it, Olivia.
Point was extremely helpful.
The emotional support sessions the emotional support sessions did a lot for both of us, both in our individual perceptions and views of ourselves and our own past, but also helping us to understand each other more, and not live in worry, not live in negativity, and think about all the things that may or may not happen, but instead just accept what is here and now and try to make the best move forward.
It's so beautiful to hear that. Being where you are now, let's say you had your time again and you're giving yourself advice right? In terms of like, how would you do things differently or the same, being where you are now, looking back on your whole journey?
I would not have been afraid to open up to others and share what was happening, both in just trying to get it off your chest, and looking for support at the same time, and just accepting that it's part of you. It could be part of anybody, and trying to improve your chances. And like I said, accept what you have in the moment and try to move forward. So
That's amazing.
I agree with that. I think saying it out loud and talking about it and doing that, I think, would have helped us making the decisions to move through the steps that we took that much more quicker. If we had gone in the past, I feel like I would have done the steps the same, kind of, or similar, at least progressively trying different things. But I think the decision to not stay with one thing 6-7 times and then move on to what are the next options. I feel like we ruminated on each step, thinking, well, this should work this time. This will be the next time. Obviously money can be a factor for a lot of people, and I think that was a consideration too, like the scary IVF consideration, but totally worth it.
We'll do it again all over.
We'll do it again all over again.
I hear that a lot. Tell me, I want to hear about that moment where it finally happened. Like, describe to me, and I want to hear from both of you on this one. Describe to me the moment that you found out that you were pregnant. Like, where were you? What was that like? Just run me through it, because those are some of the most heartwarming moments, on this journey for many, many people. And I'm sure for you, it would not have been different. Take me through that.
Yeah. So we did, obviously, the program, and then we ended up doing a few rounds of IVF. So we did our first transfer after a few rounds of IVF. And obviously they have you on a protocol, and they know what day you're needing to come in and do a blood test. And I'm a somewhat impatient person. So I took an at-home pregnancy test, and the line was there, not super solid, but it was there. And I didn't tell Eric. I think he was already at work, because I was like, well, if these tests can be, false positives, whatever, I'm going to go in and do the blood test and keep my fingers crossed that it is what it says it is. So I was at a work meeting, an all-day work meeting, and I saw I was getting a phone call from the IVF clinic. I was like, all right, this is it. I got to leave and take this call. I can't wait for a voicemail after the work day. So I went out into the lobby and took the call, and they had that moment where they answer the phone and they're like, is this who you say you are? And I'm like, this is her. And I feel like they're always trying to be very neutral in their tone.
Yes.
And so they told me, and I was ecstatic. I thanked them. They gave me the details of the results, the levels, and I'm pretty sure it went through one ear and out the other.
It's positive.
And so I hung up the phone. I'm like, I gotta call Eric. I couldn't wait to call Eric, and he's got the kind of job where I know he's busy throughout the day and doesn't necessarily have the capability to answer the phone. So he answered, and I told him,
you can't tell his part of this story.
I'm not going to tell his part. He's going to tell his part. I told him we did it, and obviously he knew what it was that we did. I didn't have to tell him I was pregnant, because I'm in this big lobby with all these people, and I didn't want to quit. But it was surreal. I'll never forget where I was standing, the building I was in, just the emotions and all of that excitement. So
how amazing.
Tell you how
So, like Juliet said, we knew this was the day that we were going to get the update that we were waiting for. And she mentioned I cook. I at this time cooked at a daycare, and I was working away making a meal for up to 100 kids at the time. And I had a bunch of them playing right next to me in the gym. And the phone goes off, and I'm thinking, I sunk to negativity in the moment, because if she's calling me in this time that she knows I'm critically busy, it has to be something. And I'm fumbling with the words and how I'm going to, piece her back together from just the news we did not want to hear. And she answered the phone, and she said to me, "Eric, we did it. We're pregnant." And I was so excited. I jumped up in the air, just throwing a fist in the air, and I yelled, "Yeah!" And I had about 30 kids and a couple teachers staring at me like,
it's like, what is happening with him?
Oblivious to everything else around me, but it just felt like the sun was shining brighter and the birds were chirping louder, and it was just the most beautiful moment. So,
needless to say, I don't really focus in that meeting the rest of the day. I don't remember what we were actually talking about.
No, I was going to say it would be pretty impossible to do that, after receiving such amazing news. And
Right.
it's, but it's so lovely, as you told me that story, Eric, I was like, oh, that is just, it's golden. It's golden. Beyond conceiving, and I'd love to kind of know, how did this whole experience change you? How did it change you as individuals, as a couple, as a family? What was the net sum of it all? Other than, of course, Olivia's here.
Right. She's changed our world for sure. I feel like it made us realize that together we can accomplish anything, and if we can't, we still have each other. There's only so much life you live in this world. You might as well go for what you want. And I think it brought us closer together. I think it made us realize life is short. It's just a lot of nothing but positives out of the program, and not just because we got our little girl.
That's so beautiful. And it's, for me, being that this is my life's work, to hear you say that, and to hear all of the other benefits that aren't even Olivia, and she's obviously such a magical little being, but it's wonderful to know that that's, that it's making a difference. It's making a difference. And it's so nice that you come and talk about it, because I know for a fact there are so many people out there who feel so helpless and hopeless about what else, and what can they do? Is there anything that they can do? And it's great that, people like you are shining the way, showing a different place, a different way, a different light of how to move forward. What advice would you give to other couples who are where you were some time ago?
Yeah, I tell them, if you have a feeling of this just isn't working and this just isn't right, and you're not already doing things proactively that you know about to improve your chances, and not just listening to the physicians, look into it, try it. It can't hurt. I feel like I wish we would have enrolled in the program just a little bit sooner. Maybe it would have gotten us closer to where we are now. Of course, now that we have this little being here, I wouldn't change a thing, because she's unique to this world and we love her just as she is. But yeah, if you've got that feeling that maybe this could be something that'll help, try it, go for it. Yeah, Eric, do you have any other? I can't remember how you phrased the question, but what would you tell other couples if they're in a similar situation and they're thinking about doing something like this program, but not quite sure they want to take the leap yet?
Don't be afraid to go big and bold and reach for everything that you want in your life. Make the changes, even though they seem hard. Just make them every day, make them your lifestyle. Reach out to your family and ask for support, share what you're feeling. Don't close it off, and be positive.
And I think it's okay to have little failures along the way, or to feel like you have little failures. It's okay, because if you're still reaching for that goal of having a child, and nobody's perfect. I think that was a reconciliation we had come to as a couple too. Like, each of us individually, we're not going to do the program perfectly. We're gonna have that bowl of ice cream because you just want it, and you just need it for that.
I highly recommend it.
But if you work on it together, you're each other's support system, and keep going for it, because it's totally worth it.
That's really, I couldn't put that in better words, really, quite honestly. And what about for Olivia? If Olivia watches this in the future, what would you like her to know?
Well, I would want her to know that we knew she would come. We are so happy that she's here. We love her so much. And even though it took a little while to get her here, everything we did and every minute we put into trying to have her here was totally worth it.
Worth the wait.
So beautiful. What about you, Eric? What do you want to tell Olivia?
I've never thought of this question before.
Yeah.
There were many times when on our journey that it seemed like hope was lost, but this is proof that there's always hope. There's always a shining light at the end of that tunnel for you. So I'm so happy that she's here with us, and I'm incredibly thankful that we joined the program. It gives you a much needed perspective on I'm losing myself, my words. Just everything that we did, even if she wouldn't have been here with us, everything was a positive part in my life. And now that she is here, we get to share it with her.
So lovely. Wow. And Olivia, you are a little light, my darling. May you always, always shine bright. Yes, you. Anything else you guys want to share?
Oh man, I don't think so.
I think it was so beautiful to hear from you as it is, and it's so, for me, these conversations are really what keep me going. I have to be honest. It's there are so many hard things about the world and about life, but you guys make it all worth it. So thank you for your trust. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here, and above all, thank you.
Thank
You
you.
you can.
I'm so lucky I get all the kisses. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. So beautiful.